Hello everyone, this is Zooc, and today I'm going to be discussing a bit of my Diablo experience so far and what I don't like about the game. Why is this important? Well, because it's basically the only game I play right now, therefore it does carry some sort of importance for me personally. It's also a game that a lot of other people play, and it's a game that's very controversial. One of the more controversial ones, I might say. So, I played Diablo ever since it came out. Not that it was a long time ago or anything. First I rolled the Witch Doctor, but as Blizzard decided to basically piss all over this class, I later rolled to a Demon Hunter, which is now my main, mostly because I've always played a tank in all MMOs and RPGs that I played previously, so I just wanted a class that was ranged this time. But that's besides the point. What I'm going to focus on is more general issues, stuff that is wrong with the game and stuff that could have been done a bajillion times better than it was right now. So, what do we know about this game? It's focused around an auction house. This auction house has caused more controversy with people than a polygamous black gay family adopting a white child in like a redneck commune somewhere. It stirred a lot of shit. But believe it or not, the Real Money Auction House isn't actually first on my list or among the first on my list. No, and the Always Online feature isn't either. I'm going to touch upon those later on. What is on my list, though, is a couple of things that really hinder your progression and also make gameplay a lot more annoying than anything, really. So, let's start off with the auction house. This auction house, it's made in a manner that makes me think that this game was developed by some sort of indie company in a time span of like 3 months with extremely limited resources. It's so badly thought out. It's almost surreal how bad it is. Let's start off with the three stats fields by which you can search for items. Basically, that's probably the worst idea they could have come up with. What the fuck is the point of that interface if you can only search for 3 items? 3 stats, I'm sorry. So 3 stats mean nothing. Every time you search for 3 stats, you get 49 pages of fucking bullshit. Or is it 46? I think it's 49. 49 pages of garbage. Most of the time, you can't really use any of it, really. At least half of it or all of it has no buyout, which again is problematic because no one in the right minds would bid on an item unless there's like 3 minutes left and you really wanted it. Or there was some auction house playing going on for like a really sick piece of gear for which you didn't know the actual price. But for that you have forums, you can price check with people from the US. There's plenty of alternatives of finding out how much an item would cost based on its stats, DPS, etc, etc. So, the 3 stat fields are basically useless. You could have 2, you could have 1. It'll find the same kind of items almost every time. So, why exactly couldn't they implement a, multiple stat, like 5, 6, DPS based? Not for set items and legendaries, because nobody cares about that. Nobody uses actual legendaries unless they're fucking amazing, which is very rare, extremely rare. Just about as rare as finding a 1400 DPS bow just out of nowhere. Completely random. So that's a very badly thought out feature, not to mention the general concept of the auction house, basically using your system clock to count the time, which led to people exploiting it by turning their clock back, therefore getting their items back because the auction expired, and also getting the money, an exploit which was denied by Blizzard, even though people proved that it was real and it was happening and people made billions off it. And this only happened like a week and a bit ago, like a bit over a week ago. It's very much recent. And a lot of people whined about it, and Blizzard just said, well, we don't believe you, we don't think that's how it is. But that's how it is. That's why it happened. An auction house. What is the point of having an always online system if you're gonna use the system clock to count upon? Why not use Windows time? Why not use whatever time your clock is using? Some sort of clock on the internet. Fucking use a stopwatch you have somewhere at Blizzard HQ. Use that instead. Hook that shit up. Not your system clock. What were they thinking? That's absolutely retarded. I have no coding knowledge whatsoever, but if someone came up to me and said, hey, look, I'm going to code this auction house to use the system clock, I would probably smack him over the mouth. That's just plain out retarded. So this company is a multi-billion-dollar company, one of the most prestigious game makers out there, with basically unlimited resources. They had the time. They had over a decade to make this fucking game. Over a decade. Very few people have that luxury. And still it feels like it was a rushed, put together, stitched up fucking piece of garbage. But, on the other hand, I do enjoy the game. I play it. Else, if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't play it. But there are these issues which eat at me and make no sense whatsoever. Some of them do, in a very negative way. Let's turn back to the auction house. Prices. People that leveled to Inferno, people that were the first to achieve that, people that were the first to get good items, people that were the first to reach high-end content, they basically established the prices for the certain items and ruined the auction house. They ruined it. You know why items cost 100 million gold? Not because they're worth 100 million gold, it's because some asshole who got to 60 really fast put it up for 100 million gold. And so everyone that finds a 1300 DPS weapon, regardless of stats or whether it's actually amazing or it has a socket or not, will put it up for 30, 40, 50 million, which is too fucking much. A million gold right now is worth $3.50. A couple of weeks ago it was worth about $7.50. So the prices have dropped by more than half in a week. It's just, instead of focusing on these stupid fucking issues, couldn't they fix the warden system so to find Chinese botters instead? Because that's basically what led to this whole crazy inflation and prices going up and down like mad. I was lucky enough to buy a weapon for 2 million, bow with like 1030 DPS, which has pretty shitty stats. But it was the only weapon which was affordable to me back then. Now, if I want to buy the same weapon, it's either priced at 15 million, 10 million, something like that, something ridiculous. So that is not cool. Basically, Chinese farmers, they steal accounts, but they don't steal accounts directly. They hack forums, they steal the usernames and passwords, and then they try them out on everything. They try them out on PayPal, on online banking systems, and in-game. And whatever account actually turns out to work, because some people do use the same password for everything, which is very bad. Never do that, by the way, if you're doing it. Don't use your forum password, any forum password, for your games or your PayPal or your YouTube account or your Gmail or anything like that, because you will get hacked eventually, and that shit sells. They sell those accounts to people who use either PayPal or online banking to purchase Diablo keys, and therefore one farmer can have 100 accounts easily, no problem. 100 accounts botting all the time, bringing in around 50 to 60 million every single day. And that's why people buy gold. Items cost a ridiculous amount. It's a vicious cycle that keeps going and going. So again, the auction house, problematic in that sense. Now the real money auction house, I think, is not as big of a problem. People say, oh yeah, it's pay to win. Pay to win what exactly? You pay to win what? You pay to have fun. That's what you do in an amusement park. You don't ride the rides for free, you pay for them. Here you have the option of not paying for them, if you choose to do so. I'm not going to get into this whole discussion about the moral implications of real money auction house. What I'm going to say is, if I had a 40-hour-a-week job which paid me $40 an hour or $50 an hour, yeah, I would probably consider buying an item that would make my game playing experience, those few hours every weekend, a bit more pleasant. That's how you got to think about it. You can't think like, okay, I'm unemployed, I don't have school, I don't have shit, I sit around all day and I have no money, so why is this auction house in a game? It makes me mad. No, you need to get a job and do something and make your own money, and then when you'll have so little time to play that you'll be like, fuck, I'm not going to use this time to farm for a weapon, then you'll probably understand how that works. So, returning to the auction house, people are stupid for putting items for such a high price because they encourage everyone else. The auction house being European-wide, as in the entire Europe uses one auction house, it would be kind of stupid setting a trend that would hinder both your sales and everyone else's. But people do it anyway because they have no knowledge of how much an item is actually worth in terms of money. People on the real money auction house put up weapons for 250 to 300 euros. You gotta be some sort of wacko to pay that much for a weapon in a video game. I wouldn't pay that much if I was fucking rich. It makes no sense. It's just wrong. It's just greed and too much money. Too much money for that little time you spent, or your stupid luck making you get that weapon. It's just too much money. I haven't had a single weapon drop that I could use or sell in 2 months. Not a single one. Not a single weapon, a rare weapon with over 1050 DPS at most. And most of the time it has shitty stats and has no socket either, so pretty much useless. So another issue that I want to touch up upon is item stats. Item stats in the game are fucked beyond belief. Basically, Blizzard patched. They realized that the game is a bit too hard for people on Act 3 and 4 Inferno, even Act 2 sometimes. Act 2 was the place where plenty of people got stuck for a long time because they lacked the gear. Now everything is nerfed. Everything is supposedly easy. Act 3 and 4 are still not that easy. Not unless you have amazing gear. The best farming route, I would say, right now is either Act 1 or Act 2. Because they're easier and it's about risk versus reward. How much will you get in repair costs versus the reward you'll get? Will you actually make a profit? Well, in Act 3, I couldn't really make a profit because my gear isn't really amazing. I'm running at 86,000 DPS with Sharpshooter, about 40,000 without right now. So it's not the best gear in the world, but I don't have time to farm, and I definitely don't have the resources to fucking buy gear either. So if my luck goes against me, I'll probably be stuck with this gear for quite a long time. But I do use the auction house once in a while, browse for items. But again, items come up with ridiculous prices. I see these people on the forums saying like, yeah, I just got a pair of boots that sold for 14 million. I just got a pair of gloves that sold for 21. I can't get shit. Everything I get, 99% of what I get, I sell to vendors because it's absolute garbage. And why is that? Because of item stat distribution. Item stat distribution is completely random and it affects both legendaries, magics, rares, whatever. Which is really stupid. What is the point of a legendary if it's gonna be crap 99% of the time? What is the point of getting excited when you see that colored font in the item drop and thinking, okay, now I'm the luckiest motherfucker on the planet, I just got this legendary. And it turns out to be, as it was in my case, a 600 DPS two-hander with 12 resistance, plus 8 damage, and the fucking, 15 life on hit or something. Or, no, like 100 life after kill. Just something really stupid. Basically worse than a blue item you would get on average farming Act 2. What is up with that? There should be... Logic dictates that for a legendary item there should be some sort of cutoff where it begins being shit. Or some sort of threshold, minimal threshold. Like, okay, let's at least have it at 1000 DPS, maybe. Because it's a legendary after all. It's supposed to be legendary. The title dictates it. Let's have it at 1000 DPS and then the other stats can vary. And maybe you'll get lucky. Apparently people say that, yeah, stats aren't random on legendaries, but they seem so fucking useless. And they are. So why exactly should I pay, or... I'm not gonna do it anyway. But why exactly do people put up legendaries for millions upon millions of gold thinking that they're gonna sell when they're worse than the average blue item I could get, or in a good case rare item for like a fifth of that price, you know? So again, legendaries are a problem, and Chinese farmers are complaining that the economy is bad because legendaries are so cheap and the other items are so expensive and this and that. No, the economy is bad because the auction house is very hard to control. You never know what kind of... how much something is worth unless you have really good experience playing the auction house. The auction house in World of Warcraft was much, much better than this system. It wasn't perfect either, but at least you know you could get mods to help you, and it turned out to be pretty good. You know, you could make a lot of money. I made a lot of money on the World of Warcraft auction house, but not on this one because it's so fucking gimpy. First off, you can't organize by time left. Any auction, well, basically 99% of auctions you put up will sell within the first hour. That's a fact. People see your item and they buy it because there's plenty of people in Europe stalking the auction house at every single hour of the day, looking for deals or looking for items that have been undercut, or items that they actually need, like sincerely need and want to buy. And of course, maybe you're not gonna be a fucking greedy retard and put it up for 7.5 million. Maybe you'll put it up for 2.5, and then it might sell. Either to people that want to use it or to people that think that they can sell it for more. Even in any case, you get your money, which is what matters. I've never sold something for 2.5 million. I wish I would get something that would sell for that much, but no, that doesn't happen. So item stat distribution is a problem. And now Blizzard increased the repair costs because they think that people have an unfair advantage being able to graveyard Zerg the elite packs. I barely make a profit in a normal run where I die a few times. When all my gear is red, I have to pay 30,000 gold, which is not as much as other people have to pay. 30,000. How am I going to get that money back exactly? What if I like to play a lot? This comes down to drop chance as well. What if I like to play a lot? If I play a lot, I might die more. I die a lot. It happens. You die sometimes. Then you pay, you know, what is it, like 30, 40, 60, 90, 100,000 gold a day because they think that graveyard zerging apparently works. Which I guess it does because people actually came up with legitimate builds tailored around graveyard zerging elite packs. Like go in, do as much DPS and then die and come back and res and do the same shit. Which is retarded in its own because that's not how the game should be played. It's about DPSing the mob before he kills you or killing the boss before he kills you. It's kind of the whole point of games in general. So, big mistake there, I think. But now they've reduced the rate at which items degrade while in combat, which is something that maybe someone in their entire team should have thought up before they implemented this patch. Kind of makes sense, no? You get punished for dying and you get punished for not dying. Thanks. Awesome. And then you don't get a single item all day that is actually worth it for all that. So, it's really cool. But yes, it's annoying with the auction house. Very much annoying. And for a game that is so severely centered around this auction house, because you have to use it. If you want to progress, if you want to keep up with your friends, you sort of have to use it. Unless you get like a renegade community of people swearing to never use the auction house, you're going to be in this game for a long time if you actually do that. It takes ages literally finding something that your class is actually benefiting from. Think about it. There's plenty of stats there. There's plenty of classes. You might not want resistances. You might get the best items ever with resistances, and then you do what? You know, instead of selling it, you trash it because you swear not to use the auction house. You have to. The temptation is there. Plus, you always have the option of making real money in a good scenario. But you can't really not use it. I know this guy that refuses to use the auction house. You know how long it took him to get to the point where he can do Act 2 pre-nerf? About a month. A month of farming Act 1 just because you refuse to buy items on the auction house. That's on the gold auction house I'm talking about here. It seems like such a waste of time. Pay the gold, get your items, it's part of the game. It's not cheating, it's part of the game. Buying gold is much more equal to cheating than this is. Truly, it's not cheating at all. They put it in for a reason. But I think they were sort of misguided when they designed the entire system because it's full of flaws. And one more thing I'm going to talk about is the actual gameplay, like difficulty. I'm not one of those people that whines on the forums that it's too hard for me. No, it's not too hard. I'm analyzing this from an objective point of view, something that someone with experience with Blizzard games, because I played WoW for 6 years, and 4 of those years were played at the highest, hardest possible tier. World firsts galore. I was there. So I know what I'm talking about when I talk about the Blizzard's idea of difficulty. Blizzard has a very peculiar idea of difficulty. Their mobs, when they design bosses and mobs, nowadays at least because they've gotten lazy, when they do that, instead of making it an interesting fight, they make it a stupid fight. They make it a fight where they stack on as many high damage, impossible to avoid abilities on bosses, and it would basically take a miracle to survive, or insane out of this world gear that doesn't drop anyway for me ever, so whatever. But let's address a certain ability in like elite packs, for example. Mortar sounds like something that they just came up with before launching the game. Hey, let's put this really, really retarded ability that a lot of mobs have. And let's make it so that when you're off screen shooting and playing the game as you're supposed to, you still get hit by it because they fall from above you. And therefore, in a 16:9 monitor, it's impossible to have the reaction time to avoid mortar when your character is in the middle of the screen and mortar is landing on you from above. You just can't do that, and you die. So what? I was sitting here doing my shit and I died. Just like that. Not because the fight is difficult, but because the mechanics are retarded. Instead of making it an overhead ability, why not make it just like a fireball, like those dragons shoot that they'll always land down, which are annoying enough. Then I would say, okay, yes, I had the skill to avoid this, or I didn't have the skill, or I wasn't paying attention and I died from it. But casting it overhead is simply a waste of time. This is what it's about. How much time you put in, the amount of skill you have, those two factors contribute to the mob being dead and you picking the loot. That's basically it. It's very simple. But these abilities that they put in, fast mobs. Okay, why are they fast? You're supposed to kite them. You're not going to tank them without a barbarian or a monk. What about range classes? You can only slow so much. And it's true, you can only slow so much. The most retarded ability I think that they put in is damage reflect. Damage reflect has to be the most pointless, biggest waste of time, basically making the fight just last longer for no reason. Not because it's interesting, not because there's a phase or an enrage or some sort of special ability, just because you're killing yourself even when you're doing the right thing. That's how they decided to make the fight difficult. So I'm sitting there doing a perfect job kiting, no problems at all, and yes, I'm still about to die. I pop my pot, I pop my preparation with the heal, and I'm still gonna die because because it's awesome paying 3,000 gold for a fucking trip to the repair guy. No, it's not awesome at all. And believe it or not, it does add up. Like what, I make 100,000 profit in a 2-3 hour farming session, just because the repair costs are that high. At least now they won't be anymore, but this is pre 103 point whatever, which was recently launched. So again, I think that's just bad design by them. They've done a good job at making interesting fights, but not this one. Range classes aren't supposed to be tanking. Range classes are supposed to be DPSing. Barbarians can afford to buy gear with resistance and vitality, and that's it. Walk around with a shield and a one-hander. For demon hunters, that's not really such a valid option unless you want to sit around and fight fucking mobs for 5 years because you have 11,000 DPS instead of 50, 60,000 like you should have at that gear level. So yes, you can do it, but it's really gimping your role in the game. Demon hunter is supposed to be, yes, super squishy, etc, etc, etc. Die if you get hit, not die if you stand there and do what you're supposed to do. I think that's just bad. And maybe they will address these abilities in the future, maybe they'll not, but it's still something that pisses me off personally. But more than anything, it's about the auction house, it's about luck, it's about item distribution. Have more white items. I would rather see more white items, increase the value of that so we can use that as vendor trash, and decrease the amount of useless fucking drops, or make some sort of logical sense to stat distribution on items. I think that's the first thing they need to address. I don't remember it being so bad in Diablo 2. Like when you would get a set item, most of the time you could actually use it, from what I can remember. It's been a while ago. So I don't know, maybe I'm just hyping up Diablo 2 or not, but so far it seems that basically most set items you get are practically useless because they have just as random stats as some blue piece of shit that you get. Item level 63 with 180 DPS. What is up with that? That can't be normal. The whole point of getting an item level 63, those little 1 or 2 percentages that you added to the drop rates for Act 1 and 2 should have made all the difference, but it doesn't. You get one item if you're lucky, if ever. And nowadays there's another problem. People farming Act 3 and 4, a place which I would eventually like to get to, are complaining that the bugs are dropped. The drops are bugged as well. They're getting level 50 stuff, which they shouldn't be getting in that tier, or level 63 stuff, which is pretty awful, worse than the level 50 stuff. And Blizzard have admitted to it it being screwed up, and they said that, yeah, we'll have some updates for you, blah, 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 blah. But what are you doing? You had a decade to fix this shit. You had a decade to make this and make it well, and still they failed. Which is why I'm thinking, is this game just some on-the-spot filler piece of crap that they threw out, or are they actually planning to make something out of it? Because it could be fun. It could be fun if these issues were addressed, especially the auction house. Again, when you make a game that uses the auction house as its central focal point, selling of items, buying of items, getting your items, etc., 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 make it more user-friendly, make it so people can actually use it, and make it so people can form a system and have an idea of what items cost and what they're worth. Because as it is now, no fucking clue. If random 14-year-old kid gets a bow dropping that's been playing Diablo for 30 hours or something, and he sees 3 pages of people putting them up for 50 million, he's gonna think, oh, I can sell this for 50 million. But no, you can't. You're just encouraging other people putting them up for 50 million, and me never ever being able to afford them. Me along with countless other people, of course. I don't just mean me. But yeah, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad design, I think, in this case. I mean, I could have made a much better job thinking up of an auction house that, and I can freely say that, yes, I could have done a better job coming up with an auction house system that allowed people to actually use their brains to make a profit instead of relying on luck and relying on other people being stupid and buying an overpriced item. That's not marketing, that's just playing on people's stupidity. And unfortunately, that's sort of widespread, so I guess it worked out for them. Anyway, this was my little video about what's wrong with D3 at the moment. I'll see you guys for my next one. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.